When I started talking about
I was going to say it.
Versailles.
Purchase your tickets to go in, and then you come over here and go inside. I'm going to hand out these tickets to you by
Wonder what that says right there. To the glory of France.
France.
But what is it? A tribute to the glory of France?
To all the glories of France.
First off, the chapel will be
Have your video going?
Yeah.
Here we are in the main plaza of the Versailles Palace.
Versailles. Over here you'll find a long line for tickets.
Look at all these old cobblestones. Man.
They're all cobbly.
It's all starting to like warp and bump. And
There's
shifting.
the main gate.
and the sun decides to come out. Like I said a while, when the sun enters through the windows, it's really cool. Another thing, the Hall of Mirrors, Treaty of Versailles, was signed there. Really impressive, and actually just opened back up after renovation. After like 2 weeks ago, just opened back up, so you wouldn't be able to see the whole thing.
A little bit of renovation going on.
As you can notice, the chateau is under restoration right now. Renovation
Restoration. Come back in 13 years and it'll be done.
Awesome. So the Hall of Mirrors. Another thing, the theater actually is sadly closed right now. It's a really good thing that they're doing. I guess since they finished work on Hall of Mirrors, they moved over here. Started working on renovation there. That's where Maria's been at. We're going to be going in, like right here where this line is by the A and the H. You're going to make basically a big loop around the place. They kind of have it mapped out to like where this road is. You're going to come
some blue sky.
on that side. Bathroom. Or right when you walk in here, you're going to be like, you're going to walk through the metal detector, you're going to walk in, there's going to be like a little open foyer, like right on your right side. And there you see like glass.
Inside Versailles. Look at this ceiling. Reminds me of the Sistine Chapel a little bit.
אתם רואים את הציור על התקרה? פיסור, כל זה פיסור. בעברית.
Yeah.
People thought he was actually a very devout Catholic, and so he designed this to be a cross. And this is, give you a little bit of perspective, this is actually the shorter end of the cross. So like it extends out a lot more in those ways, and it's absolutely massive, and it lives up to the name, the Grand Canal. Now, when Louis XIV moved the royal court out here to Versailles, like the town and everything itself was made to host all the people that were out here. Give you all a little perspective, when Louis XIII had his hunting lodge out here, there's maybe somewhere around 1,000 people total in this area. Around the Revolution in 1789, there's about 50,000. Today, there's 85,000 people out here living in the town. But when he moved the court out here, like there is no natural source of water. Like there's no lakes around here. The Seine's really far away. And people are like, Louis XIV, like you are crazy, man. Like what are you doing? Like there's no way you're gonna be able to like.
Oh no, this guy's still alive. So cold. So. I'll never say bye, Jack. You can see the fear in his eye. This market here in Versailles. Oh, that rhymed on the poet and I didn't even know it.
Estates at that time within Paris. There was the nobles, the clergy, and then the commoners. Now the nobles and clergy, they made up like the smallest amount, like population, like percentage-wise of the population. And the commoners, or the working class, also is known as, they took up a vast majority of the population. Now each estate, they were all granted one vote within the government there. And so kind of what would happen is the nobles and the clergy, they would team up against the commoners and always win in 2-to-1 votes on everything. And so the commoners, the working class, they lose every time, and they're being taxed ridiculous amounts. Like the nobles and clergy, they weren't really paying even a cent. So the wealthy, you know, they weren't paying any taxes, where the commoners, it's recorded right before the revolution, they're actually being taxed up to 84% of their income. So you can understand why they were not too happy with all the royalty at the time, and why the revolution kind of started. Another thing was there was a bread shortage, okay, a very severe bread shortage. They had one of the worst droughts ever that year, and bread was hard to come by. Like literally a loaf of bread was about a month's wages, and so like people were starving to death, and they were literally killing each other over bread. Like the quote Marie Antoinette said, "Let they have not bread, let them eat cake." Something that is today now has been, she didn't say that. Like that's something that the press made up. And
But
so,
wasn't it let them eat croissants?
let them eat croissants. No, actually, you know, the cake actually, it could have been thrown either way, because cake is actually when you're cooking the bread in the oven is when it falls down. That's also a term, cake. So it could be literally cake, or it could be the cake that fell to the bottom of the oven. But whatever it is, it has been said that she did not say that. The press made it up. And luckily the press, they don't, you know, blow things out of proportion to make up lies anymore today.
No, not
No, not at all. But another thing that people don't realize, like something else that like helped jumpstart the revolution that people like really don't even think about it, is the American Revolution.
same time.
The French came over and they helped the Americans in their revolution, and man, like it cost them a fortune to do that. And not only it cost them a fortune, but all the soldiers that were coming over and fighting in the American Revolution were all from the working class. And so they get over there into the Americas and they're like, no taxation without representation. That sounds pretty cool. And freedom of rights, freedom of speech, you know, freedom from tyranny, like all these things, they come back. And they're like, all these things sound pretty good right now, and look at what we've got. This is not a good situation. It's time we you know, do something about it. So all these things are happening. That jump starts it. Now everybody talks about, you know, July 14th, 1789 is the day that the revolution was started, and everyone refers to it as Bastille Day here. Like July 14th is a huge party. It's like the equivalent, like if we're from the States, like of the 4th of July. It's fireworks, people all day, every day. Like people don't go to work. Very big celebration. The Eiffel Tower, like everyone hangs out at the Champ de Mars, which is those fields right in front of it. Huge fireworks show. So the storming of the Bastille, that's what everyone refers to as like the jump start. That's what kicked it off. Now, the Bastille was the royal prison at the time, and since people were not able to pay taxes, the king would throw people into the prison, and that way they, you know, if they couldn't pay taxes, that was their punishment. Now, that's what the press was saying, at least, and you know, the press like to get, you know, things started, and maybe not are always truthful or whatnot, but whatever it was, it worked, whatever they did, because so everyone was like, we got to free our friends, like everyone is in this prison, so they go storm the Bastille, okay? Now, would anyone like to take a guess at how many people were in the Bastille when, yeah.
14?
7 people.
Oh.
Yeah. So like they thought, like the press is like everybody's not, you know, able to pay their taxes or thrown in there, so like they're thinking hundreds, maybe thousands of people are in this prison, and there are 7. They like literally like break in, kill all the guards, start tearing it down brick for brick because it's not there anymore, and then they're like, oh, there are only 7 people here. Yeah, there's a lot. Now it's funny because the people that are in this prison are all like, they're all thrown in there for like petty crimes. Like one guy stole a loaf of bread. Another guy was like literally like crazy and he thought he was Julius Caesar and he was just doing kind of ridiculous things around the city, so they threw him in there. There's also a story about like these 3 brothers that the night before, or the night prior to that, they went out and they had a little too much to drink at a bar, and their parents were upset with them, so they threw him in the prison to teach him a lesson. Talk about bad timing for that, because obviously he's very,
So that's
very
5.
yeah, and the other 2 are like petty crimes as well. Like, I mean, people will say either 6 or 7. We know it's that small number. We kind of know those few instances of those funny stories. But story of the Bastille, and then after that, an angry mob of what I like to call fish women come out here to Versailles to kill Marie Antoinette. Like, they had heard all these, outrageous stories and all the things she spent her money on. They come out here, actually, like, these fishermen, these are the women that like work on the docks of the Seine River, and like they're the ones that like cut the fish, and like very like pretty strong women, because they're lifting out these huge crates of fish, and they got knives because they're like cutting and butchering them. So they come out here with their knives. A 10.5 mile walk out here to it. They come out here claiming pieces of Marie Antoinette. They're like, I call her leg, I call her arm. They were gonna, like, if they would have found her, they would have just gutted her right there, like literally. Luckily, word got to the royal court that they were coming. She was actually able to hide in the king's quarters until a more civilized mob of a couple thousand people came out here and took them back into the city where they would actually hang out. Now, a lot of people don't realize this. Like, the revolution started in 1789. The king and queen were not beheaded until 1793. So there was a 4-year time where they were actually under house arrest. And the majority of that time they were at the Tuileries Palace. And the Tuileries Palace was it was in the Tuileries Gardens. It no longer is standing. It burnt down. But it had kind of been abandoned, and it hadn't been used in quite some time when they got there, and they just had them there hanging out under house arrest until one day Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette and their family kind of decided, you know what, they tried to make a break for it. They actually like started to head out to Austria, and they actually like made it to the last bordering town in France before they got right before they got to Austria. But one person kind of if you're of royalty and you're trying to flee your own country, like, one thing not to do is try to escape in the royal carriage. Like, I mean, come on, people. You would have thought they would have known that. So they get there, and actually the guy recognizes the carriage, and all of a sudden he kind of the gatekeeper at this town has them step out, and he recognizes Louis XVI. Because he's on a coin, which is really funny. They recognize him from a coin. And he summons all the guards. It's he's trying to escape. I cannot believe this. And so they take him back and tighten the knot, tighten that grip on him a little bit more. At that point in time, though, a lot of people outside the city, really were still loyal to the king and queen, because they weren't experiencing the same problems that the inner city of Paris had. And so, but once they found out that the king and queen tried to flee the country and leave their people behind, they were very upset, and that's when things really started to go down south for them. So.